Hello and welcome back to another new episode of the Otakuology Podcast. I'm your host Otaku Mike, and with me as always is Jen. He loves Twinkies and baked beans graves. Today we're talking about the electric state. Why is this
I
2 hours long?
Because it is. So going back to the thing that you said real quick, I feel like I need a lot of people, like food tuber people or whatever, to like try that Twinkies and baked beans, and I haven't seen anybody do it yet. So who knows?
When they got to that part where I don't know what his actual name is in the movie.
Yeah,
But Chris Pratt ate baked beans that was over a Twinkie. I
yeah,
almost gagged. Like, and he just ate it. He just ate the Twinkie.
yeah. Well, and like what they offered him, I was like, okay, well there's an obvious choice because it was either canned spaghetti or Twinkie with baked beans, and then he goes, "Oh, Twinkie with baked beans." And I was like, "No, he didn't just say that."
I feel like there's gonna be a weird food trend now of like trying Twinkies and baked beans together.
Yeah. His name was Keats.
Keats?
Yeah.
Okay, so throughout this entire movie, I had no idea what his name was.
I don't know if I remember that either.
Oh, okay.
I knew the little robot that traveled with him, but other than that, I don't think I knew. I think I knew him and Michelle or Melissa or whatever.
Is it Michelle?
Yeah, Michelle.
Yeah, Michelle. Yeah.
But other
No.
than
Yeah.
that,
Like
I don't.
so. Like watching this movie, I had no idea what their names were. The only the only one I knew who his name was Herman, like the robot.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, there's Mr. Peanut. I was like, oh, there's Millie Bobby Brown and Chris Pratt.
Yeah.
Maybe I just must have missed their names, but I had no idea what their fucking names were.
I think I knew his name because when you watched it and they were doing the news caps in the front, he was actually one of the soldiers that was on the news talking about them fighting the robots.
Yeah, I know.
But no, other people might not have.
I mean, we'll get into it. We'll get into it and talk about it, you know?
Yeah. But why was it 2 hours? I can't tell you.
Yeah, why was it 2 hours? I sit down to watch it. I think, oh, it's a good, probably like 90-minute movie. Fucking 2 hour long movie. I'm like, Jen, I don't have the attention span anymore for this.
See, and that's the weird thing because I've seen some reviews on it and whatnot, and like I guess I just have a differing opinion. Like I sat down, I really enjoyed it, and I didn't even realize it was that long till like I get done with it, and I'm like, or I get to like the 90-minute mark, I'm like, man, I'm starting to get like tired. Like this is kind of long. I look at it and I was like, oh, I got 30 minutes. Okay, well, I guess that makes sense.
Yeah.
But no, I can't tell you that. I can't tell you why it's that long.
Yeah, but let's get into this. Let's talk about this. We're in an alternate world that never really left the 90s because our story starts out in 1990.
Yeah.
Which I felt like I took a fucking time machine.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, especially when you go into his little man cave thing that he keeps all his supplies.
Not just that, but like the fashion, the way the hairstyles are, like everything. It very much felt like if Fallout was set in the 90s, I feel like.
I can see that.
I know that might be a little weird to say because Fallout's very like industrial, like Art Deco kind of stuff, you know, like stuff like that, you know.
Yeah,
but like I like the setting. I didn't think the setting was bad. It was sort of pseudo post-apocalyptic 90s adventure we had going on.
Yeah.
But our story starts out with a young girl named Michelle and her brother. Her brother's trying to ace this test. Was it to go to college?
I think it was supposed to be to go into college or to finish something in college or
Yeah.
something. Like move him farther up in
Yeah.
college for whatever reason it
And
was.
at the moment, we were at the cusp of like war between robots and like the humans. And we get this
Yeah.
nice montage of like footage and stuff. And a lot of information in this first like scene where we get like the robots sort of uprising and stuff because they want rights and stuff like that. And Mr. Peanut happens to lead the charge.
Yeah, he does.
Mr. Peanut of all people leads the charge for robot rights. And
Yeah, he does.
they end up having this big war that lasts like a couple of years, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It well, more than a couple, I think. I think it lasted like 4 years maybe.
Yeah, because by the we in the flashback, it's like 94 at the moment.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly. And they get quarantined off, and robots are like the most illegal thing ever. We can't touch them, we can't interact with them. If you see a robot, you have to kill it.
Yeah.
And all society basically ends up with these things. They look like giant dust busters you wear on your head.
Yeah, they do.
And it's very
the other thing that those made me think about was, remember kind of like the old school plastic whistles you would get as a kid.
Yes.
That's what I thought. Like if you're looking straight at the whistle, I was like, man, that looks kind of fucking weird.
And it's very much like plugging into the Matrix, or sort of like Ready Player One-esque, where like you do all your homework in there, you never leave because half your brain basically is play and half your brain is work. So your work brain goes into these robots, which they use the robots to end up winning the war against the robots.
Right.
Little interesting. You use the thing that you hate and fear against the thing you hate and fear.
Yeah, yeah.
If you get what I'm saying.
But they were like, oh, well, these aren't robots. These are, people that we're controlling.
Yeah.
Robots we're controlling because they can't do anything without us.
They're remote robots.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we find out that Michelle, both her parents died. Her brother died. She's in like not a group home, but like a foster care system.
Yeah.
Which I thought she was the older sibling. It's weird.
She was.
I thought she was maybe like 16, 17, maybe 18. I never got the sense that she needed to be in a foster care. Like maybe.
I think it was because of how young she was.
Okay.
She was the older of the two siblings, though.
Okay, and ends up there with George Costanza, of all people, who is not the greatest parent, to say the least.
Yeah,
he only cares about money.
That was kind of a weird spot.
But let's be honest. A majority of foster care parents don't really care about the kids. They care about the money that they get each month.
It's true.
So it's kind of on point. I feel like.
This is true.
But she ends up
and how Michelle got out of certain things, because they don't really touch on it too awful much, but I feel like after all the stuff happened, she was almost kind of robot phobic.
Yeah.
And because even with the helmets and stuff, she's like, no, I'm not putting that on.
Yeah.
So as far as we know, she never went into cyberspace, I guess you would call it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if she actually put one on or not.
That's what I'm saying. So she never did that.
Yeah, because even when she was in school, they were like, "Oh, put your headgear on," and she was like, "I'll just read this book."
Yeah. So I'm kind of wondering if there was more there that we just didn't see, like on screen, if it was off screen with like her brother and her parents and stuff.
Yeah, probably because I mean the whole headgear like virtual reality thing like sprung up like I think during the war
Yeah,
or it was like
it was
right
after
after or
part.
before.
It was right, not before the war, but it was after it had started. It was after the halfway point because when they got and started developing that, that's how the war ended.
Yeah,
Was with getting the headgear.
yeah, and so like she's in kind of in a bad place. Um, eventually she ends up. This robot shows up at her house. What was it? Captain Cosmic is the robot.
Captain Cosmic, yeah.
Captain Cosmic, and he looks like something straight out of like an 80s, 70s cartoon. You know, very Hanna-Barbera cheesiness, I feel like.
Yeah, yeah.
Which I like the design. The design is cool. In the animation, the design is cool, like in the cartoon. In
Oh,
reality,
I
he's
mean,
kind of creepy.
I loved how he was broken and how he had to communicate was through his catchphrases.
Yeah, very Bumblebee-esque.
Yeah,
But he was a little creepy. I feel like he was a little broke down, creepy, um, like look he had going on. He looked very worn.
yeah,
And we come to find out that possibly, maybe, we don't know at this time, but her brother
Chris.
Chris, might still be alive because this robot says that he is Chris or being controlled by Chris.
Yeah,
And she's like, "What? That's not possible." And she freaks out. She starts getting on the run and runs off and takes this robot with her to God knows where.
yep. And they still what's his face's
They
car.
steal his grandma's car or his mom's car, I think it
Yeah,
was.
that's my mom's
That's my
car.
mom's car. And we
Yeah,
find out that Chris is actually controlling this robot. And so they set out on this journey to find where exactly Chris is.
yeah, yeah,
Because we were presumed that Chris is dead.
yeah, yeah. And she said, or he told her that they were in like the abandoned zone or whatever it was.
Oh yeah, it was like didn't they call it the electric state,
Maybe
which they cordon
I
off
didn't
like
actually ever hear them like say the name, so that was
they
another thing that kind of
they
threw me
kind of
off.
cordon off like half of like the U.S. It seemed like.
See, I thought it was Mexico.
Was it Mexico?
I think so. It
Was
was like that or
they
like
they very they very much are like now. Excuse me for saying this.
part of Texas. I don't
They're
know.
they're they're very much like, hey robots, here's your land. You can't leave your land.
Yeah, they were very much like Indians
Yeah, yeah. And I
or
was like,
Native
oh,
Americans.
I was like, oh, that's a little hitting it on the nose. I feel like right there. This 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 movie is very, I feel like, timely in a sense with the way uh our
No shit.
our country is going at the moment. And I was like, just hitting it on the nail, Russo brothers.
See, you know the bad thing about that though, out of all the other little like review things I try to watch, to, like get somebody else's like opinions and shit for it, nobody brought that up.
Really, really.
Yeah, that it was like on the nose of like all the shit that's going on with the US right now and everything else. And I was like, what the fuck? Like how does nobody else see that? You know? Like
Yeah,
so that was a little, I mean, there's other things that they were upset about, but yeah.
yeah, yeah. No, yeah, uh, yeah, yeah. I know exactly. I feel like they hit it on the nose, and it's very timely. And so they get this idea from, I think it was from her foster parent, because he like would buy stuff, I think, from a certain person, right?
Yeah.
He would buy stuff, and it was like something to you. I think it was. I don't remember what the name of the store is called. And she was like, "Oh, this stuff is coming from inside the wall or the walled off area, and we know we can get into the walled off areas where we need to go." Right?
Right, right. I
Yeah.
was trying to look up the name of the store real quick.
Oh, I don't remember what the name of the store is called exactly. It was something like Straight to You or
That sounds right.
something like that. If I remember correctly, I don't remember. But
Yeah,
what? But
yeah,
what
because
happened?
it was a sticker or something.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And
Um,
what happens after this?
so they steal the car and they decide that they're going to go down. And I think this was a much necessary part because it was also like the traveling montage of getting places.
Mm-hmm.
We had where they basically like started walking past all these places to get to where the items were shipped.
Which is a
Um,
PO box, if I remember correctly.
yeah, yeah, but they knew where it was. I think it was in Texas, maybe.
I don't remember where it was.
It was somewhere really south. Um,
Whoa, Texas isn't that south. I'm just
it's
joking.
totally that south. It's the deep south. The deep south.
Okay.
Um, that was a little Nicky thing, if anybody caught that. Um, so they found out where that address was. They're like, okay, well, we'll go because this is where they're being shipped from. But we got kind of this travel montage of where they were walking, and we get to see all like this debris and stuff from the war where there's the dead robots in all these different
Yeah,
places.
like giant dead robots.
Yeah, I mean, huge.
Which a lot of these robots were like helper robots
Yes.
and stuff like that, like advertising robots and stuff like that. Like they weren't like war robots. It's just people used them up and spit them out, basically.
Yeah. Well, they somehow I think got a certain degree of AI from
Yeah.
however that was developed, and they saw like how people were getting to choose what their paths in lives were, and these robots developed it and were like, well, why don't we get to do that?
Very much so.
So in that sense, it kind of reminded me of like the Dead Poet Society or another movie like that, where like it's a family line of like lawyers or doctors, and then finally you get to one where they're like, I don't want to do that. I want to be a poet, or I want
Yeah.
to be a in theater or something like that. So they're trying to break the mold of being able to do that. As
Yeah. Very
whatever
much
it
have
was.
their own free will.
Yeah. So. Um, But we have that, and then we have where this random guy, because it took me forever to figure out what exactly this guy was. The bounty hunter guy that actually hunted robots that were on this side of the wall.
Oh, yeah. I don't go into too much detail about him.
Yeah, not till later on. Like
Yeah.
it was weird. We just knew that he was looking for him, and I think he had like some kind of special name or whatever on his suit or
Yeah.
on his robot.
I don't remember what his thing was exactly.
Yeah, I think it was like IBM or something. It was something weird. Like the anagram looked like something else we already have, but I can't remember what.
Yeah.
Um,
His name was am I reading this right? Marshall Bradbury? Does that sound right?
yeah,
Okay.
Colonel Marshall Brad. Yeah, because he was in the army.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, but we had where he basically is looking for this, and he sees the boxes in the back of the trunk and some other stuff as well, and what else is going on. But we don't know why he's looking for him.
Yeah.
You
Well, he's
know,
really hunting Michelle, I believe.
no,
If I
he was
remember
hunting the
correctly,
robot.
well, if I remember correctly, he was hunting Michelle because Michelle had the robot with her. Like that's what he was really going for at first.
Well, I think he was trying to hunt her because of the call. Whenever
Yeah.
her
Yeah.
not
Because
her stepdad,
her her foster parent called in and
yeah,
he took the call to hunt down the robot and try to find her because she had like truances and stuff like that, like with her and skipping
Yeah.
school, running away, I believe it was, stuff like that. So like he was there to kill the robot, but also take her back,
Yeah. Yeah.
if I remember correctly.
I think so, because I think it was because her harboring a robot what did something.
Yeah, she was
Um,
harboring a fugitive,
yeah.
a filthy, nasty robot. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, and then
jeez.
then we know Keats's character had Herman, which is technically the same thing, but
Yeah.
they did it more in secret. But I love
Yeah.
this. It was sad on this one part, yet I love what kind of happened after. So we get to kind of this location where like the packages were being sent from,
Yeah.
and they're standing there, and it's Michelle and Cosmic, Captain Cosmic, right?
Yeah.
That's his name.
Christopher.
Yeah. And they're looking, and they have stuff set up that's almost looks like little phone booths almost. And even like the homeless people have access to using
Yes.
this thing for cyberspace.
Yeah, because Christopher like goes to like cover one of the homeless people up.
Yeah, yeah.
And
So that part was a little sad and kind of reminded me of the first episode of not the Hunger Games, the Squid Games season 2,
yeah.
where they did the whole thing of, do you want like a lottery ticket or do you want food? And it kind of was like, well, to have pleasure and stuff, you would prefer to get this other thing over stuff to take care of yourself.
Yeah. Yeah,
And so
yeah.
that's kind of what it was. I mean, it to me that part felt kind of sad that's
No,
what.
no, it was very sad because, everybody is basically seemed like to be addicted to this, like whatever they were in, you know, like they
Yeah,
very much gave up their lives,
yeah, yeah,
for these things. And we find out later on, like the cyberspace or whatever they're in, the program that they're in is basically acting up.
yeah,
We find out.
yeah, yeah.
And the people are behind her trying to figure out what exactly is going on.
But then we have one of these. We have the truck pull up, and then we have one of these suits. We first get to see Chris Pratt's character again after initially seeing him as one of the soldiers
Can
in a
I
commercial.
can I just say
Yeah.
he just looks like a disheveled like hobo Han Solo.
So this is what you're going to laugh at, because I agree with part of that. But I also think that he looks like Star-Lord from the comics, because Star-Lord was a blonde in the comics instead of
Yeah.
the regular Chris Burnett or
Yeah.
Chris Pratt.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, so they couldn't get it right for the film when they were doing Guardians of the Galaxy, but they can do it for Electric State.
Well, I mean, you could definitely tell he was wearing a wig for most of this movie.
Yeah, yeah.
It was a bad looking wig.
It was, but I mean, it was one of those gaudy wigs that you knew, like that's how the hairstyle was at that time.
Yeah, yeah. And I love the fact that he was like, no, you're not. There was this running joke later on where it's like, no, you're not cutting my hair.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
one of the robots. She's like, oh,
yeah,
hair.
yeah.
Yeah.
But we get that, and we have where one of these other suits come up, which I can't remember who the guy was, but he would buy like all this different stuff from him, and he was trying to buy. Was it one of Clint Eastwood's like revolvers?
It was a revolver.
Yeah,
I don't.
he told him what it was from, but I can't remember what it is. And he
It
goes, "I'll
was a
throw the bullets in
revolver.
for
I don't
free."
remember what it was from. It was
Yeah,
expensive. I do know that.
yeah. Well, I mean, from what we know, but
Yeah.
this guy's like, "Yeah, I'll buy it," which was funny because he comes in on this really like awesome hog
Yeah.
motorcycle, for people that don't know that lingo, and like right like on his robot, like a jean jacket, like all this other stuff, like his robot was some kind of cool AI character in a video game, like
But
I don't know, you know,
he gets like shocked and like taken down,
yeah,
which is funny because Chris Pratt's trying to do his whole like, oh, I'm shocked, and he's like, I'm
um,
shocked.
yeah, See, that was one of my favorite parts. Oh, I'm shocked. Oh, I'm shocked. And then to be like, okay, I get it. Oh, I can't believe it. I'm shocked. Bzz. Finally, it happens. You're like,
Yeah.
the fuck?
And then we meet his sidekick slash best friend, Herman, who is like a construction robot, if I remember correctly. I think
I, I don't know what he
he
was.
lifted like heavy things, so I think he was like a construction robot or like a. Because later on we see him in like a bigger body later
Yeah,
on.
I think he was just kind of an all-purpose robot because that's why he had the different suit versions.
But Herman, voiced by Anthony Mackie, I did not know
Yeah,
that. This is a star-studded cast
yeah, it
in
is.
in this movie.
Well, it was funny because so I had somebody that kept kind of walking in and out of like me watching this movie,
Yeah,
and so they'd be like, "Oh, I know that guy," and it would be funny because they would tell me where they were from, and
yeah,
or like they would go, "I've seen them in something." I would tell them where they were from, like the Colonel guy. I was like, "Oh, well, that's the guy from shit. What is it? Um, Heisenberg."
I don't
Where
know
they
what
make
genre.
the meth. Breaking Bad.
Breaking Bad.
Yeah, I was like, he's the chicken guy in Breaking Bad, and he was in The Mandalorian, and he's in the new show Parish, and like stuff like that. And it was like, oh,
Yeah, yeah,
and of course, Millie Bobby Brown, Stranger Things, and Chris Pratt, and Star Lord, or The Office, and I mean, a lot of people in this. Like, this was a very big cast of people.
yeah. And Giancarlo Esposito is one of the bad guys.
Yeah.
I forget who else was in this. It was like the bad guy. He was very popular. Stanley Tucci. Stanley Tucci was his name.
Oh, the main guy.
Yeah, he played Ethan's
Yeah.
skate,
Yeah.
I
Well, and of
believe.
course, one of your guys from the Goonies is in this, so
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
Yes. We see him later on. Kihuan
Quan.
Kwan?
Yeah.
I probably butchered his name so bad.
No, I think you said it right.
Short
Kihon
round.
Quan.
Short round. His name is Short
Yeah.
Round. Data from
Yeah.
the Goonies.
Yeah. I had to tell somebody that when we were watching this, and they go, "I didn't know he was in the Goonies." I said, "Yeah, he's the only Asian kid in the Goonies."
Yeah, he just won his first Oscar. Like fucking awesome actor.
Yeah.
Even if you know him
Yeah.
only for the Goonies and Indiana Jones, he's still a good actor.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
like we both said, I mean, the cast of this was brilliant. I mean,
Which
like,
very surprising for a Netflix movie.
yes, it was.
Just saying, like I feel like so like going into this and talking about like it very like when you get like a Netflix movie, sometimes you're like, oh, it's above like a made for TV movie type of
Yeah.
budget. Like it's in the middle of like high budget slash, it depends. It depends on the movie.
Well, and I really thought, remember when we covered, I think it was called Spider Island?
Spider Island.
Yeah, where they had the little box things on their back that controlled um like their libidos and their mood,
Oh, that
and it
was
would,
that was Spiderhead, I think it was.
yeah, that's what it was. That's what it
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
And they had, they basically had like Chris Hemsworth and then the other main guy, and those were the only two like that's kind of what I expected with this one. Like, we were going to know like the main people with Millie Bobby Brown and Chris Pratt, and then we weren't going to know anybody
Well,
else.
Chris Hemsworth wasn't in Spiderhead. Oh no, yes he was. Yes he was. Never mind.
But to say, you motherfucker.
I was like, yeah,
Yes, he was.
He was the bad guy.
Yeah.
That's
He was
right.
the
That's right.
doctor.
That's right. Yeah, he was a doctor. It's been such a long time since I've watched that movie. Uh, But yeah, no, like for like this to like a big, it felt like a big budget like action movie.
Yeah,
Well, in a sense, like I felt like the part that they could have screwed up the most in this was honestly the robot effects.
yeah.
And where this movie shines is in the robot effects. This world feels like it's lived in, like the robots feel like they belong there. Like it's very much like, oh, they're not like on a green screen. You know, it
Yeah.
feel it feels very tangible, like the locations and stuff like that. That's where I felt like this movie really shined, was in the
Well, and there were
effects.
there were plenty of the effects, like the giant robots and everything. That watching some of the stuff today, that I found out that most of that, like they didn't make models or anything. That was actually all mostly AI generated for stuff that they put into it,
Yeah.
and that's how they got a lot of the like far robots, or if there was something we saw like sitting somewhere and it was huge, like most of that stuff happened through the AI process. And the other cool thing I kind of found out was that to make some of the voices actually stand out more, they actually had people talk through
I
AI generator voices so
thought you were
that
gonna
it
say talk through like a bucket,
no.
like they did with Alphonse from Full Metal Alchemist.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no. It was
Wait.
more of like Robin Williams and Mrs. Doubtfire. No, don't go in there.
No, yeah, and that's where I feel like this movie definitely shines in the
Yeah,
Xena aspects.
yeah,
Um, we very much are like we have like very likable characters in this. I feel like as well.
yeah, yeah.
The robots are very humanized. I feel like some more than
Well,
the humans.
and I think that a lot of the product placement is really fun because we're watching it, and like one of the things that I love with like Ready Player One, is where they touch on things that are from like the pulp culture past that you and I grew up in, that we know from the '90s and stuff.
Yeah.
And so to like have part of the stuff that we know, like the fish, I
Oh,
mean,
the
that was fucking iconic.
Billy Bass. Yeah, and
Yeah,
that's one thing I liked about it is like the product placement wasn't like in your face in a sense.
yeah.
Like it all felt like it just was there.
Or like you heard something, like maybe you didn't see it, but you heard something about it. Like whenever Keats is talking to Herman about um why is my refrigerator unplugged?
Yeah.
And
No.
he opens it up and he's talking about, where's my bean burritos at? Where's my ice cream at?
My
Where's
ice cream
this?
sandwiches.
Yeah, so he's listing off like all this stuff that like we grew up with, and I was like, oh man, like hell yeah, I could understand being pissed if somebody unplugs your mini fridge, and
Yeah.
you having all the problems and not having any of that
Cause
shit that you
it
bought.
was funny because like Herman was like, "What are you talking about? Like I got all the energy I need, you know.
I didn't do it.
I didn't do it." And he's like, "Herman, tell me right now, did you unplug my mini fridge?" And he's like, well, yeah, I did it." And they get into like this argument when that's where we end up meeting. They end up meeting Michelle and Kid Captain Cosmic, whatever,
I
Christopher.
keep I keep wanting to go Kid Cosmic too because of the show.
Cap, Captain Christopher,
Yeah,
Christopher, and they end up meeting and kind of having this, starting this relationship slash friendship, and they're like, "Hey, can you get us into here?" And they're like, "No, we're not going to do it," you know. And then they end up having to like run off into the walled off area because our main bad guy or antagonist shows up, which he kind of
yeah.
fucks them up really hard.
Oh yeah, and I think that was another, and it was very Office esque, I have to say,
Yeah.
which I think added a lot of depth with it for Chris Pratt's character, in the fact of where they're like, why do you have so many keys to do this? And he's trying to look through them real quick to unlock
Like
the
the
cold
rail.
cart.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the rail.
the cart that they had. And they get it going, and then it goes so slow that the guy's able to shoot like a little rocket out of
Yeah,
him.
and
I was
they're
like,
like, "Fuck you," and you're like, "Yeah." You as the audience are like, "Yeah, fuck you." They're getting away, and then they don't get away.
yeah, yeah. He blows up the cart, and it's like, oh shit, let's run.
Yeah, so they very much subvert your expectations. I feel like a little bit here and there, but they do end up getting to sort of where they need to go, which is like this mall, and
Yeah, and we have those weird, creepy motherfuckers that are
the
in there.
weird scavenger robot thingies.
Yeah.
And we get to the mall, and it is revealed that Mr. Peanut is in charge of the resistance as well.
You know what we forgot to bring up?
What?
Herman's bodysuit.
Oh yeah, Herman gets in another giant Herman,
That can carry a Volkswagen van.
and then he gets later on into a giant Herman
Yeah.
later on, which leads to a really funny gag later on. I feel like,
Yeah, yeah.
but he's very much like one of those Russian dolls.
Yeah, he is.
The one that gets bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
So they get there and they're like, "Hey, look, the doctor who helped you out when your parents' accident was here, and he left this letter because we had to like banish him for reasons I don't remember why they banished the doctor.
They had to banish him because he was human.
Was that why?
Yeah.
Okay. And they go,
Because if you were a human and you were in the mall, you were foregoing the treaty. And if a human was found in there, then they were able to basically work around the treaty and basically say, like, we can go in here and attack.
okay. And they get there, and then they end up like they kind of stay there for a while, and they end up leaving to go to this weird haunted carnival thing.
Yeah, they stay there for a night.
Yeah, where they end up finding the doctor, and we end up finding out that the mall gets attacked by the remote robot thingies. I forget what they are.
Yeah, whatever the military group for that company is.
The military attacks the robots, and then shows up to get the robot that Michelle has, and we have this interesting fight where the doctor ends up dying, and what's left is his computer, who looks and sounds exactly like him, except he's a giant computer.
And a desk.
And a desk. And we get this interesting info where our antagonist can't hurt people. He's only there to hurt robots. That's like his goal. That's like the thing he lives by, which is very interesting, I feel like.
It is. And I love that part that gets brought up by the doctor. Well, he goes, we're at an impasse. We're at a standstill. You know, you can't hurt me. I'm not going to do anything about it or whatever. Like, what are you going to be able to do? And he goes, you're right. Like, you know, and then the evil doctor guy basically turns around and kills him. And, you know, even though that happened, like, I think that was kind of a small setup for this thing that happens later on. But we'll wait till we get there.
Yeah. And then they end up going back to the mall. They find out everybody is blown up and destroyed. Well, most people are. They kind of rally the troops, in a sense, and they basically go after like the company that is holding Christopher hostage.
Yeah.
Which is this is a really fun scene, I feel like, when they actually go into like the fight.
Yeah, it is.
Mr. Peanut goes hard. Mr. Peanut's killing people.
Well, and this is after he has to find a new hat, because remember his hat got ripped off in the first battle.
I thought he almost died, and I was like, no, don't kill Mr. Peanut.
I thought he almost died too. And then we had the crazy batting machine guy.
Yeah.
I think out of all the robots that went with him, that was probably my favorite one, because he was like, oh, here we go.
I thought you were going to say the male woman.
No, she kind of reminded me of Betty Boop. I mean, but there wasn't
Wow.
very much to her.
Well, she was voiced by what's her face from Bob's Burger. Who plays Tina in Bob's Burger?
A man,
Not Tina. Louise.
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 Um, I can't remember her name right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, she plays. She also plays Mabel in Gravity
Yeah.
Falls. That's why I thought you would like her. Is
No, no, and not everything's about Gravity Falls,
I
bro.
thought that's why you would like her and like be drawn towards her. But
No,
yeah,
no, I really like the other guy because he's like, here we go. And
here we go. Let's go.
he swing the bat out of nowhere, and you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah, and so
And
they
then his whole speech of what you need to like kill crazy robots, he's like, all you need is a good bat, and you're like, what the fuck's a bat gonna do? He goes, well, you do it and you swing it real hard.
and he like shoots baseballs at him too.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, which was funny in that scene when when the military goes after them and he like just like knocks a bunch of them out.
yeah,
Like with his baseball bat and his baseballs, which is you think wouldn't work, but it does. You know, because he's basically falling apart at the seams.
yeah. A lot of them are, which
Yeah,
was that was something I really didn't think we had much that we had to worry about with that because they were all starting to um, kind of get broken down, I'd say.
they're kind of like when the Ewoks get attacked by the stormtroopers.
Yeah,
I feel like, and then the Ewoks prevail, just like the robots. The
yeah,
robots prevail, and we end up finding out that Christopher is actually hooked up to whatever internet superhighway that they got going on here, and he kind of is like the big access points that makes
yeah,
everything work. Like, which is hard to wrap your mind around. I feel like that this one kid's brain power makes everything work,
yeah.
but you kind of just got to go with it.
Right. Yeah,
And we have this big like climactic event where like everybody's fighting outside, people are fighting inside. Mr. Peanut goes after the main bad guy. You know, it's a whole big thing.
yeah.
And we get to the
Well, and then we have the colonel that finally goes after him,
yeah,
and that's one of the things I really like whenever he has his kind of big moment speech thing where he's talking about, why did he basically like turn on humanity?
yeah.
And it's the evil doctor guy telling him that, and he goes, well, I didn't. He goes, I just found somebody that was more heartless than a robot. And I
Yeah.
was like, whoa, best line of the movie right there.
Which that scene was very poignant, I feel like.
Yeah, yeah,
Very, very poignant. And we get to the crux, the climax of this movie, where Michelle finds all this stuff out. And she's like, we can't get him out of this thing. So what do? They fucking kill him.
yep,
They kill him to stop the internet or whatever it is. Which
yep,
was
yep.
it was a very heartbreaking scene, I feel like.
It was.
Very, very heartbreaking scene. Um
I
but
I would say it was the first of the two heartbreaking scenes
what was the second one?
where Herman's first the giant robot went down, and
Yeah.
then he was in the big one that carried the van, and that one went down, and then we had the little him that we've seen the whole movie, and then that one got killed, and we were like, oh my god, he's out of robots, what the fuck.
And then we find out he's not dead. There's one more.
Now there's just a pocket-sized version
There's
of
a
him,
pocket-sized Herman, and we
which
know.
I really want to know, especially like after you said the nesting doll thing. I really want to know, is there a thumb-sized version of him?
No, I think this is probably as small as he gets.
Because I was like, we can't just keep fucking going
Well,
down.
the thing
in
is,
this.
how did Chris Pratt's character not know he could do that?
He never came out of that suit.
I know, but still,
He just never knew that.
yeah. Like I don't know.
Because whenever like Keats and Herman's character, like Herman, something happened to Herman, and he ended up saving Keats, which is how they became friends. And then Keats basically turned his back on the army
He became a deserter,
because,
basically.
yeah, because he was like, Herman saved me. He's a good robot. And they're like, all robots must die. And he is like, I can't accept that. So that's when they turned to smuggling, and for all intents and purposes, did turn into a Han Solo.
They're basically the Han Solo and Chewbacca of this movie.
Yeah, but Herman never went to this lowest form, like the hand size. He was always like mini Herman, I guess, or
Yeah.
small Herman, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, and
So,
then we get the climax of the ending of the movie where we find out, they're basically going to live their lives. Society is more than welcome to join in. And there's more out there, to live for
yeah.
than living in this virtual world. And we
Well,
kind of,
and totally saying you're not going to be able to live in the virtual world anymore because it's gone.
yeah, because it's gone. So what are you going to do,
Which to me totally sounded like the whole speech thing for Ready Player One, where they were talking about, on Tuesdays and Thursdays, that's family day.
Yeah.
You can't get online those days.
Yeah. Or like, hey, put your screens down. Time to have some family time, basically.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
But
um,
in this, it was just completely gone. There's no more you're going to be able to do with that part of this
and
internet thing,
we
whatever it was.
basically get sort of a stinger a little bit where we see the reflection of Captain Cosmic, and he might still be alive, and that's where the movie ends.
We know he's still alive.
You don't know. You don't know. You don't
We
know.
we do. His reflection was in the water. We know.
Okay.
We know Chris is still alive.
You think he transferred his essence into the?
I do.
You do?
I do. Yeah.
Interesting.
Um, but some of the other stuff that I found out about this is they had like a $240 million budget or a $350 million budget on it,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of critics and stuff are saying this is one of the worst movies ever.
Really?
Yeah, it was a box office flop.
Well, it wasn't even in the box office because it was straight to Netflix.
Exactly. So that's where I'm confused on part of that. But they were saying this movie was such a flop that there was no plot holes or other things. Like it was just you were sitting there in the movies. Now, I think that there's a lot of haters because I really enjoyed this movie. And I do think that there was a storyline. Now, could there have been stuff that they stuck to a little more? Sure. Could they have flushed out a few more things? Sure. But
I mean, they could have probably
um,
flushed out a couple things here and there,
yeah,
story wise, but or probably trimmed some stuff down a little bit. I didn't think it was a terrible movie. Like
yeah,
I enjoyed my time with the movie.
yeah,
I feel like you probably enjoyed your time with it more than I did personally.
yeah.
But I just found out that this is based on a graphic novel.
It is.
Yeah. And
It
Skybound actually put this out.
actually also has an RPG that was based off of it that they um, basically had come out, I guess, before the show came out.
Okay.
So you
Now
can play in this universe.
I would be interested in reading the graphic novel and seeing how that differs from the the movie.
Well, they also have an art book that you can look through too.
Yeah, but
That
I would want to read the story. Like I would want to read
looked
this.
really cool.
I would want to read the story and see like what differs from what and what they took and what they left for just the book. You know.
Yeah. Plot hole. You can follow Mike on his YouTube channel and possibly in the future see as he reads the graphic novel of Electric State.
No, because I remember seeing at the end of the in the credits, it was like, oh, based on a book, and I
Yeah.
just looked it up a couple minutes ago, and I'm like, and it's like, oh, it's a graphic novel, and I'm like, oh, interesting. Like,
Hey, you can cover it on your page.
well, I mean, like, I thought it was like a novel series, like a young adult novel series was what it was going to like become,
Yeah, yeah,
basically, or what it was going to be, type of thing. Like Percy Jackson or something like that. But I'm like,
yeah,
oh, it's just a standalone graphic novel.
yeah,
Which I mean, it sounds interesting. I mean, I didn't hate the movie. I do feel like the movie was kind of somewhat paint by numbers a little bit
yeah,
in character development with like Chris Pratt very felt like kind of two-dimensional esque,
yeah,
at
yeah,
points. Some of the parts in this movie definitely felt um like not original, like, oh, I've seen this before type of
yeah,
thing.
yeah,
But I mean, other than that, like, I did enjoy the movie. Like, I thought it was a fun movie.
yeah,
It just, it was a fun 2 hours.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was hilarious that Woody Harrelson voiced Mr. Peanut.
yeah.
I'm like halfway through the movie, I'm listening to this movie, and I'm like, why does that voice sound so familiar? And I look it up and I'm like, Woody fucking Harrelson is Mr. Peanut.
You're
Like, going
welcome.
into this, like, I knew Mr. Peanut was going to have a role in this movie
Yeah,
because I saw like like an advertisement where like he was in the movie.
yeah,
Now, I thought he was going to have like somewhat of like a cameo thing. He was
yeah.
a big supporting character in this movie.
He was. He was. I was like, man, if Planters didn't throw a lot of money at this too.
Yeah, no, it very much reminded me of like, when Thomas the Train was in Ant-Man?
Yes.
That's what it kind of reminded me of. But Thomas didn't kill anybody or couldn't kill anybody. But Mr. Peanut, he could take that blade out of his cane and start stabbing people.
This is true.
Planters has no problem letting Mr. Peanut get his hands dirty.
This is true. Planters was like, hey, buddy, we just want you to know you could have a peanut allergy and we could accidentally kill you. But we also want you to know the alternative is that Mr. Peanut Head will kill you.
Mr. Peanut's not a bad guy. Just sometimes he likes to get a little stabby.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I thought this movie was perfectly fine. I don't think it was a box office failure,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
some people like to say. I think
Yeah.
those people possibly are a little too uppity being critics.
I I agree. I mean, there's a lot of people like even like small critic people, like I would say kind of how you and I are,
Yeah.
that have more of a following than we do and said the same thing about it. Like
Yeah, it was a fun.
they they try to do that and then like I told you off air before we started. So the comparison somebody tried to make was for Firefly,
Uh-huh.
and they were like, Firefly has more memorable things in it because of whatever, and they didn't have that much money to throw at it. And
But
this they had $350 million to throw at it, and then nothing was very memorable.
well, the thing is with Firefly, if we all remember, Firefly 2 was a failure. The
Um,
only thing that kept Firefly going was the fans after the fact Firefly got canceled.
what
Like
was the movie that came out?
Serenity.
Okay, yeah,
And
yeah,
that basically finished up the Firefly story.
yeah,
So, like, we're dealing with something that basically is one story. There probably isn't any more story after this.
right,
Firefly had, what, 11 episodes to, like, get people invested into this world?
yeah,
And on top of that, like, later on, there were comic books that filled in gaps as well. Stuff like that. The movie that finished things off.
yeah,
So like Firefly very much got to flesh itself out because of the fandom.
right,
Now, I mean, do they do that in Electric State? No. The characters aren't that fleshed out. But that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Well, and I want to add to that, since you said that earlier, like some of the characters were paint by number.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I wanted that much character development for them.
I mean, for Chris Pratt character, we don't really get a lot of
Yeah.
character development.
Well, I'm just saying, I don't feel like I would want that for them because how long was the movie? 2 hours, like you
Yeah, like
said?
2 hours, I think it was.
And I don't think I would have wanted to sit around for more of the character development when we already had such a big workload on like the
You
history
mean
part.
you mean like what if this was like a mini series or something?
No, I mean like I wouldn't want more character development for those characters because
So
we kind of understood where they were,
yeah,
but we already had all of that like history from the TV screens of like how the helmets got made and why the robots had an uprising and like all this other stuff. Like we already knew all that.
yeah, and we get that in the opening and stuff.
Yeah. So if you were going to sit there and go, okay, well, I'm going to basically feed you 30, 45 minutes of this past history of the world and then turn around and go, well, I'm also going to try and do that with this character development. I'd be like, no, I'm not. I don't want you to turn this into a 3 hour Lord of the Rings
Yeah,
marathon for me, you know?
yeah, and the movie ran for like an hour and 20, like 128 minutes, I believe it was.
Yeah.
Roughly 2 hours. I mean, you got to say though, this is probably one of the best comic adaptations you got on like an independent IP,
Yeah.
independent comic basically, and it
Yeah.
got this big of a budget.
Yeah.
The last time we got that was what? The Turtles or The Crow?
Yeah, I think so.
Like, come on. I mean, and they did it decently. Like, it's not a bad movie.
Well, and like the other thing that you and I talked about is we had the 90s nostalgia.
Yeah.
And we had the when this perfectly came out basically when we as America were going through part of the same shit, it felt like.
I mean, we're still going through the same shit. Just saying.
Yeah. I mean, but like nail on the head though, like people getting
Yeah.
deported on a regular basis, and it was very heavy in the media.
The xenophobia,
Yeah, like all that stuff was like very fresh in the media. Everything else, like we had that, and then this movie came out, and it was, and like you're sitting there watching it, and you're like, oh shit, this could be related to that, and a guy that feels like, oh well, the world is da da da, but he's technically heartless, like you have all this other stuff wanting to control the world, and you're like, man, like I could very much see how most of this movie actually depicted of what we have going on kind of right now.
No, this definitely, without the robots, we definitely have this right now.
Well, and I mean, you could even pick the robots out as being, another group of people. Whether
Hispanics,
you want to say Hispanic people, or if you want to
Japanese people,
yeah,
Chinese.
if you want to compare it to the Native Americans, I mean, whoever you want to compare it to, like that is a thing for that, or like nerds in general of how society basically looks down on all of us. And
I mean, it definitely, in all intents and purposes, like at the end of the day, with this movie, it sets like a very good like message. Either we all live together or we all fucking die, basically.
Right.
We can't survive with by ourselves.
Right. Well, and the other thing I thought that was really heavily good for it is I feel like the robots were actually also alluding to like our trans friends.
Yeah.
Just because it was like, well, I was created to do this. I was created to be a hairdressing robot, or I was created to be this, or I was created, and they go, I don't want to do that. I want to, the hairdressing robot goes, I want to be a chef.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to do this. So like, like a lot of other things that we have going on in the world, like it was very much on the nose. And that's one thing that I really hate of all these other critics and stuff that I watched today trying to prepare for this. And nobody alluded to any of that. They really just tried to skin it down to I'm going to use your words, a paint by number that was planned two-dimensional and had nothing going for it. I really think this is just a movie that you have to dive into deeper.
Yeah, I mean, parts of it are a mixed bag, but I mean, in the end, it's not like a terrible movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, no, I mean, I enjoyed my time. You know, if
What
we
would you
got,
rate it?
what would I rate it
Yeah, out of 5.
out of 5? I give it a solid 4.
Okay.
Yeah, I
I'd go
give it a
4.
solid.
I'd go 4.5.
I give it a solid 4 out of 5. I would be surprised if we got a sequel. I
Oh,
mean,
I would too.
I
I
would be
would too.
I would be surprised, but I would hope it is just as fun as the first one. You know, because sometimes we get that
True.
sequelitis where it's not as good as the sequel or not as good as the original. You know.
True.
Yeah.
I'm going to jump on that boat with you and say that I don't believe that we would have a second one. I think
Yeah.
it's kind of a one and done movie, but no, I would say that it was good too. If we got one, hopefully it
I
wouldn't
mean,
turn into like a
never,
sci-fi channel movie.
never say never, because Jurassic Park was supposed to be one movie and one
Yeah.
book. So we got
So
two
what?
books.
So what you're saying is,
We
if
got
Chris Pratt's in it, we're probably gonna have another.
we got 2 books in what? How many movies? 6,
Yeah.
I think 7.
Yeah.
So I mean, you never know. You never know. I don't
Yeah.
know now. I don't know what they would explore in a potential sequel. I kind of would like to see more dealing with the war itself. Maybe a prequel.
See if a prequel would be cool. I don't know how they would do that because I'm sure they would want to bring Millie Bobby Brown back and they would want to bring Chris Pratt, which he would be in it, but I don't think we would have Millie,
Yeah,
just because of how that happened.
yeah,
But I could also see where they get this stuff done, and the new problem that happens in the world is all those psychotic robots.
yeah.
The
The scavenged robots.
yeah, because I mean they attack other robots, they rip off whatever parts they can, and they kind of just fuse it into themselves. So I
Yeah.
mean, I could definitely see that turning into another movie as them almost being like um the Walking Dead of robots, I would say.
Well, I mean, it was published by Skybound, which publishes Walking Dead. So
See, look, crossover.
just saying.
Who knows? Um, but yeah,
Yeah,
no, I'd say mine is a 4.5. So I mean, that would come out for us being at a 8.5.
I guess. I don't
Yeah,
know how. I'm going to be
8.5.
honest. I don't know how our score system works.
We usually both do ours and then we add them together.
Okay. Out of
So
10. Out of 10.
yeah, so it's
Yeah.
10 altogether.
Okay.
But we do out of 5 and then we add them together for the 10. But
Yeah, it was fun. It was fun, you know.
I felt this was really refreshing too, just because of us covering so much anime. That I think this was also just kind of refreshing for us to have one of these where we covered, more of a pop culture-y movie
Yeah.
and whatnot. And of course, you and I being big nerds, I mean, I'm sure we both had fun with it.
Yeah, it was fun. Yeah, it was fun. It was fun.
So,
Yeah.
but
Anyways, we're going to go back into our rotation. We're going to be rotating through finishing up probably Gungrave and Bubblegum Crisis, as well as throwing in Creature Commandos and the rest of Devil May Cry moving forward,
yeah,
and probably sprinkling in some more like movies and stuff like that. But stay with
and
us.
also lives.
Oh, lives as well. Yes, lives as well on our
Yep.
YouTube channel.
Yep.
So stay with us. You can reach us on our Instagram at Otakuology Podcast, our YouTube channel, on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. We would love to hear from you. Rate and review the podcast, share the podcast. It helps people find the podcast. And say thank you for listening. Sticking with us for like 5 years now. I
Yeah.
think. Yeah.
Thanks. and see you next Tuesday.